Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. 10 minutes. That was how long the machine on the table needed to erase 3 centuries of settled science, and Vex 9's 4-eye stalks would not stop twitching at the display. Somewhere below the readout, a strand of skin, no bigger than a grain of rice, sat spinning in a centrifuge, deciding a war of words that had already gone too far to take back. She would tell this story herself later to rooms full of students who could not quite believe a word of it. She always started here, at the machine, at the wager, at the 10 minutes, because everything before it only made sense once you knew how it ended. Rewind 6 months, though, to a lecture hall on the Andromeda Institute campus, where a girl with false amber eyes and forehead ridges made of cheap synth skin sat in the back row, perfecting the art of being unremarkable. Maya Chen had spent 3 years there. Nobody had once looked twice at her, which was exactly the point. Beneath the voice modulator that gave her words a faint metallic hum, she was the only human being in a room of 200 students, and as far as galactic record-keeping was concerned, she did not exist. Professor Vex 9 liked to open his lectures with a joke at somebody's expense, and today the somebody was her species. He strolled the floor of the amphitheater, describing the extinct humans the way a man describes a pet that chewed through the furniture, fondly, and with total contempt. They thought they were alone in a galaxy of 400 billion stars. He told the class, and the room laughed. They met their first aliens and tried to organize a war against everyone at once, and the room laughed harder. He mimed their strange greeting, gripping an invisible hand and pumping it, and called it a mating ritual among his own people, and by then Maya's jaw ached from holding still. He kept going. He told them humans bonded with their machines like children with imaginary friends, and Maya thought of her father's ship, the one he used to sing to on long hauls, and mourned like a death when it finally gave out. He told them a phrase, "Hold my beer," had killed more humans than any war, and Maya thought of her Uncle Jake landing that hover bike over the canyon, broken ribs and all, grinning the whole time. He told the room humans were a species too stubborn to recognize their own extinction, and that was the line that did it. 50 years of secrecy, of family gatherings behind sealed doors, of watching her people get reduced to a punchline in someone else's textbook. All of it arrived at once, behind her ribs, and would not sit down again. Her hand went up before she decided to raise it. "If we're extinct," she said, once the whole amphitheater had gone quiet enough to hear the air recyclers, "then what exactly am I?" She didn't wait for an answer. She peeled the ridges off her forehead first, then blinked out the amber lenses, then thumbed off the modulator so her real voice came through, flat earth vowels, nothing alien in it at all. She held up both hands, 5 fingers each, and let the room count them. "I'm human," she said. "So were my parents. So are roughly 340 of us, scattered across sectors you've never bothered to check, filing taxes to a federation that keeps a memorial plaque where our sun is supposed to be." The room came apart. Someone's species flashed warning colors. Someone else started secreting something defensive. Vex 9's mandibles worked without sound for a long moment before he managed to accuse her of being a shapeshifter, a hoax, anything but what she just told 200 witnesses, and within the hour, half the galactic press corps. "Prove it then," she told him. "Genetics don't lie, unless you're afraid of what they'll say." That was the wager that put her under the scanner. But before the scanner, there was the morning after a coffee kiosk, 3 Federation officials, and a dean whose tentacles would not stop moving. "Do you understand what you've done to our classification systems?" the mushroom-faced official, Sex Molar, demanded. Maya, unbothered, ordered her usual and told him she'd already worked out the paperwork. Just over 4,000 forms to move a species from extinct back to alive, and she'd read every clause of the reparations statute while she was at it. Lost trade, lost medical access, lost decades. She named a number with a comma in the wrong place for anyone in the room to feel comfortable, trillions, payable by a federation that had simply never checked its own math. "We could be reasonable," the legal officer, Vought Beta, said quickly. Good, Maya answered. Because I don't want your money. I want my people back. 340 of us living under fake names because a clerk mixed up a star chart. I want that fixed, and I want a formal correction on the record, and I want a certain professor to say out loud that he was wrong. Her voice, which had been light all morning, dropped into something harder. You have no idea what it costs to watch your professor call your grandmother's people a joke and not be allowed to say a word back. The dean, to his credit, looked like a man realizing he'd stepped on something without noticing. We didn't know, he said. You didn't check, she corrected. There's a difference. Which brought them back to the amphitheater and the scanner and the 10 minutes. Reporters crowded the aisles this time, drones hovering for angle. Vex 9 stood rigid at his podium, certain he was about to unmask a fraud. Dr. Felix Gamma worked in clipped, clinical silence while the machine turned, and Maya waited in the middle of the floor with her hands loose at her sides, aware of every eye in the hall and refusing to look like it. When the readout finally resolved, the doctor read it without ceremony. Double helix carbon chemistry, species origin Sol 3, no modification, no artifice. Homo sapiens confirmed, standing in front of everyone who had gathered to watch her be exposed as a lie. The hall did not erupt right away. For one full second nobody moved, and in that second Maya watched 3 centuries of certainty come apart behind Vex 9's 4 eye stalks. Then the noise broke over the room all at once, reporters shouting, drones swarming for the shot, students on their feet. Through the middle of it, the professor's shoulders dropped, and when he finally spoke, his voice barely carried past the podium. I was wrong, he said. You are not extinct. You are here. His mandibles clicked, uneven, searching for the rest of the sentence. I am sorry, not only for today, for every lecture where I made you into a joke instead of a person and never once thought to ask if I might be sitting across from one. That's a start, Maya told him, and she meant it, but she didn't stop there. She turned from the podium to the crowd, to the drones, to whatever billions of strangers would eventually watch this clip. For 50 years, my people hid because of a filing error nobody bothered to correct. We're not hiding anymore. Her voice climbed over the noise in the hall until it didn't need help from the acoustics at all. We never left. We're not going anywhere. And starting today, you're going to have to make room. That line went further than anything the analysis machine had printed. It ran across every network in the sector by nightfall, and by the next morning the Federation had a task force, a public inquiry, and a very embarrassed junior administrator to answer for. Vex 9 found her once the hall had mostly cleared, hesitating the way someone does before knocking on a door they're not sure will open. He didn't try to apologize a second time. He asked instead, quietly, if she would help him rewrite the lectures. The whole curriculum, human history told by someone who'd actually lived inside it. She thought about it exactly as long as it took to remember 3 years of sitting silent in the back row, and told him she'd need her name on the syllabus, not just his. 6 months carried a great deal with them. An official correction filed in the Galactic record, 340 humans stepping back into names they hadn't used in decades, a cultural preservation survey with Maya's signature at the top of it. None of that made the news the way the scanner had. All of it mattered more. She stood in the same amphitheater again on the first day of the new term. No ridges, no lenses, no modulator, just her own voice reaching the back row the way it always should have. There are no stupid questions in here, she told the room. Only stupid assumptions. Ask me anything you want. In the front row, a set of 4 eye stalks turned toward her, patient and attentive, the same eyes that had once measured her species as a joke, now taking notes like any first-year student learning something for the first time. Maya let the silence sit a moment before she started, the same silence she'd once used to hide in, now hers to fill however she chose.